How's everyone doing? First net? First net? Yeah, love it, love it. Oh, clicker. All right. Okay, so I get the privilege of talking to you all about engaging customers at the booth. I love doing this. And the number one thing you need to write down, okay? If you get anything from my talk, just have fun. Whenever you're in a rut, whenever things are kind of not going your way, just go back to having fun. And my mentor, Brandon, always reminds me of that. So this is one of my favorite quotes. People may not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So just like Amy said, I love that our job, the opportunity that we have is we can have customers leave better than when they showed up to us. And just like you all heard Kelly say yesterday, some people will come to your events just to see you and just to buy Cutco from you. So have fun with your customers. It's easy to get caught up in our big goals and perfecting the scripts, becoming masters at handling objections, all that great stuff. But when you're in front of that customer, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is giving them a great experience. Because some of y'all need to check your breath before you step behind the booth, because some of y'all got CPO breath. And it stank, all right? Customers don't like that. Have you ever, could you tell when a salesperson was like actually trying to sell you something? It doesn't feel good. Like, I just want a conversation, man. It's actually really fun when like other salespeople are trying to sell you something, and you give them an objection, and they're like, "Oh, I totally understand." I'm like, "No, you don't. You're just saying that." It's great. So have fun. Kelly talked about marketing yesterday. So, oh, by the way, so these customers of mine at State Fair, I'm not promoting drink behind the booth, but they brought me a beer. And every time I work in Milwaukee, they come to my events, and they come up and say, "Hey, you remember the Summer Sandy that we gave you?" I'm like, "Yes, I remember. What else do you want?" But I was just working a show in Milwaukee, and they came up, and they said, "Yeah, we came to the home show just to say hi." And I don't remember what they bought, but this was like the highlight of their day. Have fun with your marketing. So for our state fairs, I do golden tickets. It's like Willy Wonka, you got your golden ticket, now come spend money with me at the state fair. And each year is different. So now my customers, they look forward to getting my postcards in the mail. And take pictures with your customers. You heard how Mike Dowd, he loves to take pictures with his customers. So take pictures, have them add you on Facebook, tag you in a post, have lots of fun with them. Because then all their friends are like, "Man, I want to have fun. I want to buy knives." What if you were the CSP that everybody wanted to work with? Everyone on your events team was like, "Man, I really want to work with so-and-so because whenever I work with them, I just have a ton of fun." Well, what if that was your reputation? What would it be like if your customers were excited to see you year after year and excited to bring their referrals to you because of how great you made them feel after every single experience? We have this huge event in Wisconsin called Cran Fest. Wisconsin's known for our cranberries. And Kate and Seth, they know this. We were just chilling in the booth, and then 20 feet down the way, all of a sudden we just hear, "Vernon! Is that you?" I'm like, "Yes, David, that's me." And they came in and dropped like $6,000 with me. But they were just super excited to see me. What if that was all of your customers? Don't be like any other salesperson. We talked about that yesterday. Don't blend in with the sales world. This is my wife's favorite quote. Stop trying to fit in when you were born to stand out. And don't be like every other Cutco rep. Are you just going to be the college student or the knife person? Or are you going to be the person that whenever someone thinks about knives, they think about anything for the kitchen, they think about you? And when it comes to working events, when someone's thinking about, man, who would be a fun person for me to work with, your name comes up. So before you step into the booth, you want to check yourself. How's your energy? How's your mental? All of us have problems that go on at home. None of that matters. Leave your problems in your car because your customers deserve your best. So what's your pre-show ritual? What are some affirmations that you're telling yourself before you step inside that booth? And we all have those bad days where turn after turn, no sale, no sale, no sale. When that happens, take a walk. It's okay. I've definitely had those days where I'm like, wow, I guess no one's buying Cutco for me today. It's like everyone woke up like, all right, y'all, we're seeing Vernon. Nobody buy from him today. And you all feel like that sometimes? Like they just have like a huddle before they come to the show? We're going to ruin this guy's day. No one buy knives for him. Like they don't know each other. But take a walk. So a lot of us have talked about, or at least have heard of prejudging, okay? There's times to prejudge and times not to prejudge. This is a situation where you want to prejudge, okay? You prejudge the heck out of these people, all right? They got any of these or anything else. You're like, hey, you need, come here, okay? Like when I see a Rolex, I'm like, hey, nice Rolex. We're matching. Some of y'all can't say that yet. But we're matching. I like that Louis bag. But one thing that I learned, though, you have to ask them how they got it. Because if they got it as a gift, no, I don't think I want to talk to you. So ask them how they got it. Hey, nice Louis bag. Where'd you get it? Oh, I got it on the Magnificent Mile in Chicago. Oh, come here. Okay? So get to know some of these designer logos and just high-quality items so that when you see people walking, you catch their attention. Now that also means you have to ask yourself, how do you look behind the booth? Some of y'all look like bums. Why do people want to buy knives from you? Okay? Dress sharp. You sell sharp, high-quality American-made knives. I'm not saying you have to, dress up like this, right? But just look good. Cut your hair. Brush your teeth. Put a mint in your mouth or something, okay? Iron your clothes. Iron your clothes. You want to be the kind of customer that you want to attract. Okay. So here's the deal. At the end of the day, we're here to sell Cutco, all right? Yes, have fun, but we're here to sell Cutco and make money. So when you're at the booth, try to limit the amount of times that you're on your phone, you're on your tablets, all of that, okay? Especially when it's slow. I totally get it. I've been there. I'm not perfect. But you want to limit your scrolling, all right? Because you can miss an opportunity, all right? And this is the best thing that you can do sometimes, to smile and wave and have fun. If y'all ever work with Tuck, it's a broken record. Cutting deals. Cutting deals. Okay? When people walk by, just say, hey, how's it going? You don't have to rope them in. That's the great thing about our product. Like, people see our stuff, and whether they have it or not, they know it's good stuff. Make sure your stuff looks good, okay? Don't have scratches. Make sure like your steak knives actually cut, okay? Make sure your cutting boards aren't dirty. Don't bring your own Cutco from home, okay? Like, have it look good. So when someone's like slowly walking by, I've definitely had this a couple times. When I'm like scrolling, have y'all ever gotten scared at the booth where you're like on your phone and you look up and someone's just right there? Like, you can't give me a warning or something? But that's my fault. So when someone's just like slowly walking at your booth, that's obviously an opportunity. And you just ask them like, hey, how's it going? Like, oh, I'm good. I'm just looking. That's fine. I'm just selling. Are you familiar with Cutco? No. Right? You engage them. So we're going to talk about how to get different people to the booth. You can tell if it's a prospect or if it's someone that already owns Cutco, okay? So when you hear if it's a prospect, you're going to hear things like, "Oh wow, we need some good knives. Oh wow, those look really nice. Wait, is that Cutco?" When you hear any of that, you need to look at them and say, "Oh, do you have Cutco?" Like, "Oh yeah, these are really nice. Have you seen these before? Come on, let me show you." Past customers, it's similar. They'll say things like, "Oh, Cutco, I love my Cutco." And you all have heard this. "Oh, honey, look, Cutco." And the husband's like, "Yeah, keep it coming, Sally." Right? So whenever you hear this, you need to drag them in. Like, "Oh, you have this? Which ones do you have?" Bring them to the booth. I even do the old school, fish line thing, and they love that. They're like, "Oh, he's trying to get me." Like, "Hey, you better get your ass over here." Okay? So one of my favorite things to do, I think I saw Josh Moeller do this. So let's say this is your table, right? I'm not going to go behind there. It's too much work. So let's say this is your table, and you hear a customer like, "Oh, Cutco, I love Cutco." And they're over here, and you're going to say, "Hey, oh, you have Cutco? Can I show you something? Do you have this piece all the way over here?" I don't care if it's a peeler. I don't care if it's a cutting board. You bring them to the booth. Like, "Have you seen this?" Yeah, I have like 20 of those." "Oh, great, let me show you something else." Okay? Like, you ask them, like, "Oh, do you have this?" Don't hold it up, like, just point to it. Even if you have a knifeless display and you're pointing at your brochure, I don't care. "Do you have this piece of paper?" No. You bring them to the booth. So I'll give you an example. When I was working that show in Milwaukee, it was my turn, and I heard this couple kind of walking, and they said something similar, like, "Oh, Cutco, I have Cutco." "Oh, you have Cutco? How long have you had it?" "Oh, we had it for X amount of time." "Do you need them sharpened?" "We can do free sharpening." Bring them back, okay? Brought them back, got them signed up for a sharpening, and I saw that they were also eyeing up the table. And as I'm like getting down their information for sharpening, I ask them, "Hey, I'm just curious. When I do sharpen your knives, I'm going to try to sell you more Cutco, obviously. So if you saw some things that you actually liked and you could fit in the budget, would you consider adding onto your collection?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And then I ask, "Do you mind if I just show you some of those things right now?" "Yeah, okay, cool. What do you think about this?" And after a while, we put together a package, and they're buying about $800 worth of stuff. All because I was paying attention, and I heard them say Cutco. I brought them in, service first, and then sales. So now once you get them there, here's how to keep them engaged and keep them interested. So if it's a new customer, "Hey folks, how are you doing today? What brings you to the show?" "Nice. Hey, are you familiar with Cutco?" Then you share a little bit about Cutco. Okay? And for me, I want to be focused on kitchens. So when I'm telling them about our Cutco kitchen, how we're the premier kitchen company in America, I tell them that there are 4 pillars that make up our Cutco kitchen: the knives, cookware, flatware, gadgets, and accessories. Which one would you do first? Now, if you're not comfortable like pitching cookware or flatware right away, then just tell them, first I'll start you off with the knives. This is the priority, just like Chelsea talked about yesterday. But if they say, actually, we could use some really good pots and pans, talk to them about the cookware. So as you're pitching, though, I'm not going to go into my pitch, but as you're pitching, you want to make sure that you are engaging both people or everyone that's there. Brandon talked about this, okay? Because usually there's one person that does all the cooking and one person that handles the finances. So even if the spouse that doesn't cook but they're handling the finances, you need to get them engaged as well. So just a quick example. So with these ladies right here, I forget their names. I know I'm horrible. But the first one, she was interested in Cutco, but I asked each and every one of them, like, are you also familiar with Cutco? I'm talking to all of them. And at first, the one in the middle wasn't interested at all. But then the other two bought Cutco, so she was like left out. She was like, well, I also want a set. I'm like, well, you told me you didn't want to buy it, so. But if you really want it, let me see the credit card. So all three of them bought Cutco because I engaged all of them. So who does the cooking at home? Hand the knives to both people. Ask them both questions. If one doesn't answer, direct a question to them. Hey, what are your thoughts? Do you like this piece? She seems to like this. Would you agree with that? So hand knives to both parties. Even when you have the kids there. I got this from Fonz. You have like the kids like tug on the leather so they can see like it's real stuff, and you like pretend they're about to like throw you off the table. Like, dang, what are you feeding your kids? And of course, they always love that. Here's another tip. Everyone knows how kids can be rowdy, right? So I got this from Curtis. You tell him, hey, can I make you a deal? If you are really good and you let me talk to mommy and daddy, I'll get you a present when we're done. And they're like, ooh, okay, but you got to be good. You promise? High five? Okay. And then you just, cut the penny for them at the end. And, of course, they love that. So get them both engaged. You heard Brandon say yesterday when one spouse is like, I don't know, like, I really love it, but I got to talk to so-and-so. I literally, talk to the other spouse and say, hey, it just sounds like they want your support. So if they wanted to get this and they bought this from me right now, would they have your full support? Because they're going to tell you right then and there either yes or no. So with past customers, we heard these questions yesterday. How long have you had it? Oh, I have Cutco. High five. How long have you had it for? You still have all your fingers? They always laugh at that. Get them laughing. The more you can make them laugh, the lower their guard will be. What do you have? Do you have just a few pieces? Do you have a whole set? This is a very important question. Did you get it all together or did you piecemeal it out? Which ones are your favorites? What's your favorite thing about Cutco? Now, you want to space these questions out. You don't want to sound like you're like interrogating them, okay? How long have you had your Cutco, Mrs. Jones? Have it be natural. And there's a purpose behind each of these questions because they're going to start to sell themselves again on Cutco. If this is their first time seeing Cutco in 20 years, of course they haven't thought about adding on to their set. Put yourselves in your customer's shoes. If you had something for 20 years and you've loved it, it doesn't make sense to like really add on more because you've been enjoying what you've had for 20 years. So you have to get them talking about, oh yeah, this is why we bought Cutco. Later on, asking them, do you remember how much you paid for this set when you got it 20-some years ago? And you want them to say some kind of number. I don't really care what the number is because the follow-up question is, yeah, and I'm sure it was a lot when you got it, right? And what do you think they're going to say 9 times out of 10? Yeah. So when you present the price again, you just tell them again, this is nothing, nothing new. Just like when you got it 20 years ago. Then when both spouses are there, you're asking them, so who uses the Cutco the most? Who's the cook in the family? And if one raises their hand, then you ask the other one, are they a good cook? You can tell me. I won't tell her, if it's no. Or what's your favorite thing that they cook for you? So you're getting both of them engaged. A great question to ask the spouse that isn't the cook is asking them, so these are obviously really expensive, right? What were your thoughts when you got this set 20 years ago? And even the spouse that's not the cook, they're going to be justifying why it's so worth it. I had this one couple, the guy came up and he's like, when my wife bought this set, 50 years ago, I was so mad at her. He didn't say mad, but I was so mad at her. But then the next thing he said was, but you know what? This knife right here is my favorite knife. It was the trimmer. So they get it. You've heard a lot about nonverbal tips and nonverbal cues as well. Very powerful. Not just the customer's body language, but yours as well. Okay? So for example, I'm a tall guy. So I actually sit down a lot so that when most customers come up, I don't feel like I'm towering over them. Okay? So if you're tall like me or Lucky, and you're sitting down and someone comes up, don't just like spring up. Okay? Like, hey, are you familiar with Cutco? We're like, absolutely not. But what is wrong with him? We don't know either, Mrs. Jones. We don't know. I think he was adopted. Anyway, but if I do have to get up, I'm going to get up slowly. And I'm going to do it when it's appropriate. So if they're pointing at a knife, then I'm going to be like, oh, so you mean like this one right here? So that way it's just a gradual growth. You want to make sure that you have good eye contact. Don't make it creepy, all right? Don't just like, the smolder. Don't, like have it be natural. Have good eye contact. Have good posture. You also want to mirror what they're doing. So if they put their hand in their pocket, put your hand in your pocket. Again, don't be weird about it. Like, oh, shoot. Okay. See. Okay. All right. Have it be natural. Because when you do that, you are building rapport with them. Because all of a sudden, they're going to be thinking, I don't know what it is about this guy or about this girl, but, like, I'm really connecting with them. And all you're doing is just basically playing Simon Says. If they're talking louder, you talk louder. If they talk fast, you talk fast. If they're talking a little bit slow, you talk slow. If they're a little bit more quiet, you talk a little quiet. Because when you do that, you will keep them engaged and you will be in rapport. You don't have to be their best friend and talk about all their kids and their dogs and their third cousin removed to build rapport. You ask great questions, have good eye contact, match their body language, and you're going to be in rapport. The other thing to do is to ask great questions, as I mentioned before. So when you start to do your pitch with Cutco, you ask questions like, what would it be like if ... One of the reasons why people say, I don't want Cutco, or it's not a need, is because they're not envisioning themselves having Cutco. So Mrs. Jones, like when they cut the tomato on your demos, or they cut the leather for the first time, and that's like their wow factor, that's their very first time using Cutco. You need to capture that moment. So when that happens, I pause and I smile, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, did you see this? Like, wasn't that awesome, Mrs. Jones?" Now, what would it be like if every single day for the next 20, 30, 40 years, this was how all of your knives cut for you in the kitchen? Oh, that'd be incredible. Before you cut the leather, by the way, you want to have them envision the pain that they're already having. Hey, Mr. Jones, have you cut a tomato and it turns into salsa? Like, oh yeah, all the time. Or you have like the earthquake effect at the dinner table trying to saw through a piece of chicken or a steak. Isn't like the worst thing in the world, I think Bert said this at our Union banquet, isn't the worst thing in the world cutting raw chicken with a dull knife? And they're like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. How long have you been dealing with that? Just like a couple weeks, a month or two? Oh no, we've been dealing with this forever. Forever? You mean for the past like 10, 20 years, every time you cut tomatoes, they turn to salsa? And your kids got to duck and hide whenever you cut chicken at the dinner table? Man, I can't imagine that cutting or cooking in the kitchen is a lot of fun right now. What would it be like if it was fun for you? Let me show you this. And I'm doing all this before they cut the leather. That's why cutting the leather is actually so incredibly important when it comes to new customers. Something else to keep them engaged, get a really old piece of Cutco. Like I'm talking a straight edge bread knife before we even had the double D edge. That's the next piece I have them cut leather with. Like, cool, so now we're gonna do something else. Take this, start from the back of the blade and pull straight back. And I usually have the other spouse do this. Now, wasn't that awesome? How old do you think that knife is? Oh, like 5 years, you're so close. I'm gonna guess 20 years. Very close. This knife is over 70 years old. You're like, what? And do you see any scratches on the blade? You see all the rivets are still intact? Do you see any rust marks? What would it be like for you if this is how your whole set of Cutco knives cut for you 70 years from now? Imagine your great-grandkids having this same experience with their Cutco. See, Mr. Jones, that's why Cutco is so expensive, but it's worth it because this is how it's going to be for you. So asking what would it be like if, imagine if blank. Brandon loves asking this question. If I could wave a magic wand, ... So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if I could wave a magic wand and I could solve any problem in the kitchen for you when it comes to your knives, your cookware, forks and spoons, your gadgets, whatever, what would that one problem be? Man, I just want knives that will stay sharp forever. Well, I can help you with that. And that's all you focus on. Bless you. So find places in your pitches, whether it's behind the booth or in the home, on your virtuals, for what would it be like if, imagine if this, hey, if I could wave a magical wand, ... You're having them envision their lives with Cutco. By the way, you remember those brands that I showed earlier? I love it when those people say, well, I don't really need this right now. Oh, you saying you don't need this, but you got a Louis bag? You also don't need that Rolex on your watch or on your wrist. You don't need that horrible Apple Watch. You should have an Android watch, first of all. Team green all the way. That's a different talk, though. Okay? Yeah, I would imagine they're from haters. Anyway, so when we're at the home show, I'm like, yeah, you're right, but you also don't need anything here. Okay? So now, have you ever had it where you can kind of feel the energy kind of like dulling a little bit? No pun intended. Okay? So you want to keep that same energy. So if you feel the energy starting to lower a little bit, you need to get them engaged. So you need to like break the cycle somehow. So sometimes I'll literally clap and just be like, all right, what are your thoughts? See, all y'all are engaged now. Uh-huh. Yeah, I did that on purpose. Okay. Cut something. Have them cut leather again. Cut the penny there. Show a quick video. Show some pictures. Or just say, I've been talking a lot. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this? Get them talking. This is especially important when it comes to virtuals as well. Okay? So you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on the energy that the customers have and keep them engaged. All right? So I really encourage all of you to go through your notes, not just for this talk, but all the talks you're going to have at NET. Highlight your top takeaways. And then what you want to do is put time in your calendar within 72 hours after this event to go through your notes and start to implement. All right? So I hope this brought value to you and start engaging customers at the booth. Thanks. Cuts like a knife, cuts like a knife.